So first I wanted to kick it off with Agnes. I've decided to put her in some overalls, in a slightly light wash denim, and a white cotton uh, tank top in that kind of texture. I kind of got my inspiration from her from Monica Geller from Friends, and I kind of noticed on those 90s sitcoms that overalls were kind of popular, so I wanted to make that a staple. And then I wanted to add a little patch for her pocket with some flowers, pink flowers, just as a cute little pop of color. She'll have some pink earrings as well. And then I've decided to put her in some white kids just because they're a classic. Okay, next we have Miles. He was one of the three at random chosen that I decided I wanted to style. I got, I just really love Miles in the script and play. He reminds me of the best friend of Corey in Boy Meets World. His name is slipping my mind at the moment. And kind of a Chandler in Friends. So I kind of styled him in a similar way that those characters dress. So I've got him in some jeans, a pair of Converse, and a striped short sleeve sweater-esque shirt, more of that heavy woven fabric, and then a black t-shirt underneath. I noticed that a lot of boys would wear t-shirts underneath and would let them show, and guys do that now, but you don't typically see the shirt, so I just kind of wanted to incorporate that cool little tidbit in there that I noticed. Next up we have Vera, who is also another character that I decided to choose at random. I am not realizing I got a lot of my inspiration from sitcoms of the 90s, but definitely for Vera, I saw the older sister in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and I noticed that she loves to wear those big coats with the double-sided buttons and the skirts and the fancy shoes. And I don't know why, but because Vera is like that guidance counselor, but she has that edge to her, I thought it would be fun to kind of dress her in a very similar way. So I've kind of done that here. So she's got a wool top with, well, a wool blazer, if you will. I don't know why I said coat, but a wool green blazer with some gold buttons, and then she's got a pleated cream skirt, and then I put her in some velvet shoes with some, it's a little bit of a gold crest at the top of the shoe. And I know she's just a guidance counselor, but I feel like Vera would dress nice to school, and even if she only has like 4 outfits that she kind of puts on rotation, I think that they would be nice and very professional looking while having her own sense of style put in there as well. And that's kind of where that inspiration came from. Lilith, oh boy, was this one fun to design. I mainly had to look up inspiration on Google because honestly I had no idea what a demon queen of Dungeons and Dragons looked like, so I did a lot of digging in that regard. A lot of it was fantasy art that I found, and so I kind of just took a little piece of pictures that I kind of found inspiring. I noticed a lot of red and purple mixed together, so maybe that's a demon queen kind of color palette to go for, so that's what I did. And then of course leather, because to me leather just screams badass. So I've incorporated a lot of leather in our team of adventurers. But basically I've got her in a leather top with some straps coming up to her neck. Those would be leather as well, and they've got kind of some red spikes coming out from the sides. That was just kind of to enhance her kind of ferocity. And then it's kind of hard to depict and forgive my terrible art skills. If this class has taught me anything, it's that I'm not the best drawer, but I will continue and try my best. But basically, what I'm trying to convey here is um, I would paint some red flames coming down and coming up from that top piece. So I would paint onto the leather um, and that kind of flames coming up, if that makes any sense. And then I have some red suspenders attaching the top to the bottoms. And those bottoms I was kind of seeing as a black spandex kind of fabric, so very tight. Um, but I know she has a lot of movement um, in her lower half, and her upper half is pretty free for movement because there's not a lot there. So she has a lot to work with there. But I wanted to make her bottom half a little bit more user friendly. And then for her shoes, I wanted to do some high boots because they're just kind of sexy in my opinion. And then I would personally attach some, I don't know what you would call them, some spikes or flares. So they're kind of supposed to look like they're flames coming off of her calf, if you will. But I would just attach those to the leather boots just as a cool element. And I think the horns and the flames on the top and that together would kind of help to make it more of a fantastical costume rather than just some girl who's dressed in a really sexy outfit who's supposed to be some demon queen, So that's kind of where I was going with those ideas. Oh, Calliope. I don't know if you recall, but this was the character that I was most excited to design for. She definitely was a challenge, just like Lilith. I didn't really know what a dark elf looked like, so again, I went onto Google and did some digging, and kind of went the same route. For inspiration, I found a lot of fantasy art done by random people, but this is kind of the look that just came to me out of nowhere, and I kind of had a lot of the actors that were cast for our Clemson show in mind when I designed a lot of these. So I've got her in purple is kind of the color I saw for her. There wasn't really any one set of color or colors for the dark elves that I saw in my research, so I just decided that purple was going to be her color, and it kind of helped to highlight the little elements of purple in Lilith and match that red and purple color for demons-esque things, if you will. So I've got her in a top that is connected in a halter way, except it does not fully cover the cleavage, so it kind of covers each breast and it has some chains, 2 chains that attach to the band at the top and go down on each side. And then for her bottom half, it's kind of more of your loincloth, I guess. I wanted it to be shorter because, they're supposed to be really sexy and very risque. I mean, Agnes can't shut up about it, so I felt like it needed to be pretty tiny clothing. So she's got pretty much a belt that is attached to the cloth, the purple cloth, I've decided to make it look a little bit rugged and torn on the edges, kind of to show her that she's been through battle and that she's not rough, but that she's tough, I guess, is a good way of putting that. Sure. And then she's kind of got little gold pieces in her jewelry, and it's the color of the stones on her halter top band and the middle of her belt for the cloth. So then I decided that I wanted to make her shoes more of like a Roman soldier sandals. I don't know why this came to me like this, but it did. I didn't want both Lilith and Calliope to have high boots, so I went more of the sandal route, and I think that goes with kind of the serenity that Calliope gives off in her character. I see sandals as more of a open presence. Boots can be, I guess, closed off almost. That sounds ridiculous and like I'm pulling something out of thin air, but that's my best explanation for why I decided to use those sandals. And then I decided to go with the taller ones to kind of give the same height of the boots of Lilith's boots, but in a different way to show their differences. Next we have Tilius the Paladin. I have to say that her inspiration really was inspired by the Valkyrie in Thor Ragnarok. I don't know if you've ever seen it. I've got a picture here to kind of show what they look like. So I kind of went with similar color schemes. I didn't want Tilly to be so aggressive in color or in the kind of seductive route. I wanted her to look more serious and powerful, like you didn't want to mess with her. That's the best way I can kind of describe the vibe I was trying to give off by her. The skirt almost reminds me of Wonder Woman, and it's kind of made out of the same fabric, that kind of stretchy polyester, I believe is the word I'm looking for. And then we've got, for her top half, more of the armor. So that would, I don't know if that color of armor exists, but it's kind of a bluish silver. So if I could find that somewhere, that's what I would prefer. But if it had to be more of a gold armor, like the picture I have here, then that wouldn't bother me. But I saw in the Valkyrie photo how they kind of chose to make it appear that she had chained armor underneath, like the chains that knights always wear, but it looked more like legging material. So that's kind of what that's what I would choose for underneath all of this, because I wouldn't want the actress to have to deal with a whole under long sleeve of chained armor. So I would just go off of that. And then I wanted her to have an attachable cloak, but it doesn't go all the way to the floor. It's kind of more of just like, not a sash because it doesn't go from back to front, but more of just to show a bit of a regalness about her. And then I decided to put her in boots, and they're more of just for practicality. Tilly does a lot of fighting in the show, so hers are going to be a bit more on the flexible route, with a more rubber fabric texture for the boots, but I would like them to be the kind of same color as her armor if possible. So, and then I kind of wanted to accent the toe and the heel of the boot, so I made those a separate color. So I would probably just paint that on myself if I were to purchase some boots. Orcus, oh god, he was so much fun to design for. I feel like all of these, I'm going to say that for all of these, but Orcus was just fun because, he's supposed to be this overlord of darkness and hell, and yet he's this super flamboyant gay man who is super into sitcoms and eating Cheez Whiz. So I really just enjoyed making this look. So we're going to start off with some super tight red leather pants. I had a super flamboyant choir teacher back in high school, and he used to always wear these red skinny jeans, and so that really just reminded me of it. And so I think that's where that inspiration came from, which is totally weird, but it works. And then I got him I wanted to accentuate it with a black belt with some spikes on it, and we got some black combat boots things, and for the upper half, I thought it would be fun if he was completely shirtless and then we accentuated his muscles with red highlights, or even making it like the shadow of his muscles. Either way, I just thought that would be hilarious and also kind of sexy, and I'd be kind of into that. I don't know, I just thought it was fun. And I didn't really want to put him in a shirt. I just don't know why. He just didn't seem like he needed one or should have one. And then, of course, he's got the red horns because it's pretty much written in the script that he has them, but it also kind of helps put together Lilith and Orcus and how that kind of comes up in the play when he's like, hey, I know you, we live in the same circle, that kind of thing. So, anyways. But I decided to not put any of the red highlight or shadow, if you will, on his face, because I know he'll have to turn into Ronnie at some point in the show, so you have to keep that in mind, because it's going to be pretty hard to make that a quick transition of wiping paint off your face. So his face would still be, it would be left alone, in other words. So for Farah, I really tried to capture the 90s rave girl look. So she's got kind of crazy hair, she's got the 2 pigtails, and she has colored hair, it's purple and orange. Did not mean to do that Clemson colors, I'm realizing that now. And I put her in some scrunchies for her hair tie, a pair of retro sunglasses, a boa around her neck, and then for her top, I decided to go with, I wanted to convey tie-dye. It kind of worked out and kind of didn't, but that would be a halter top, kind of your cotton, kind of stretchy top with a little bit of gathering at the top. And then for her skirt, I wanted to go with more of that shiny spandex looking tight skirt. I couldn't really get the hang of showing that shininess in the water paint, so thankfully I've got the fabric sample to kind of show that look. It wouldn't be in that exact color. And then I decided to put her in some high top boots to kind of show her tininess, and I don't think it would take away from her height. I think it would show more of like, wow, she's got on those high boots and she's still super tiny. So, and then I kind of wanted those to be outrageous colors as well. But I wanted them to somehow fit into the already planned color scheme. And then I felt like the fishnets were a good way of showing her darker side of Farah. You know, she kind of looks cutesy if you don't really pay attention to that. But then you see the fishnets and you're like, wait a second, what's going on here? So that's kind of what I wanted to do, is kind of highlight those so that she's not completely deceiving in her true colors. So I decided to choose the narrator for the last random chosen characters. I remembered in the script that it said when she were to talk that it would sound like the narrator in Lord of the Rings. So that's the first thing I looked up for inspiration. So it's very similar to that kind of vibe in her cloak and her long dress that doesn't really have much shape to it. It just kind of lays on her. So I'm going to make that with your silk chiffon in the cape, so that it's kind of almost got a see-through look at the on her cloak, excuse me. And then for the dress itself, I kind of wanted to go more of a pink silk to kind of show that softness and that smoothness that her voice is supposed to sound like. And she's almost not an eerie presence, but she kind of just pops up in random areas. So she's kind of mysterious, I guess, is a better way of putting it. So I kind of wanted that to have that illusion with the cloak. But then when she speaks, I imagine her taking off the hood and then having that pink silk kind of shine through and having that sweetness and tranquility about her. I'm going to start off by apologizing for this because it really, as you can tell, looks like complete crap. And I'm going to just do my best in explaining what I wanted for this. I definitely had the most trouble with this because I think in my brain I saw it as more of a prop or set piece rather than a costume design piece, and so I really had to like switch my brain, if you will. So I kind of have a picture here to help my explanation because I know it's going to be terrible, but this is really what I wanted to go for. So I wanted to have that stretchy see-through white fabric around, very, very tightly around kind of these beams that would form the cube, and then there would be a slit down the side diagonally on the side that Steve gets pulled into, so that it looks like he's literally being like slurped into the gelatinous cube. And the reason I colored or painted, I'm sorry about that siren, I'm outside right now. It's gonna be loud and annoying. Sorry. Just gonna wait for it to pass. Okay. The reason there are circles and dots on my painting is I would do more of a strobe-esque light for the gelatinous cube, and not because I see Jello that way, but more of just a special effect and to make it look weird. And I don't see the gelatinous cube as being anything normal in a Dungeons and Dragons game, So that's kind of where the circles and things, I don't know if it would even work like that, because that's definitely something I think you would have to do a lot of trial and error, but definitely in this one picture that I found of similar things, that's what I would want it to look like. And yeah,